Be a situation where if you didn't have time to build a shelter, this would be ideal inside of a shelter, especially a shelter that could have a Dakota Fire Pit inside it. But if you can't, and you've run out of time, you don't have time to build a shelter, and it's cold weather, you definitely need to get up off the ground. So there's the entrance to the Dakota Fire Pit. We've got our small bits of wood. Actually, that should be a lot smaller. I do have some bark over there, but that would be once it's established. And then we heated those hot rocks up around a fire that we could get to. So here's our coals, or our coals were there. We heat those up, we transfer those underneath, and then we want to replace with additional rocks around the fire so that if we do get cold, we can replace those hot rocks that are underneath our bed that are radiating heat up towards us. And so our head is going to be up here near the entrance to the Dakota Fire Pit, so that we can feed the fire without having to get out of bed. And we want the chimney portion of the Dakota Fire Pit to make sure that the smoke is away from our head. So ideally, we want to try to position that in a way where the smoke's not rolling towards us. But anybody that's been around a fire knows that smoke is just going to travel wherever it wants to go. So that's the idea, is that we get up off the ground so that we're not conducting or losing heat to the ground. You'll never heat that ground in a cold environment. You'll continue to lose heat to it. And then we want some radiant heat, not only from the Dakota Fire Pit warming the ground close to us, but we also want radiant heat from the hot rocks below that'll radiate heat throughout the night. Every 2 or 3 hours, you'll probably have to replace those, if not sooner than that. And we don't want to have to get out of bed and get cold, so that's why we'll keep a large amount of firewood. That would not be enough, but small little pieces of firewood that we could throw here, and then larger stacks of firewood to supply this. Flames came out of the chimney or even out of the entrance. They're not going to catch your bed on fire, but close enough to where you could feed the fire without getting out of bed. So those are all considerations and all ways to thermoregulate if you don't have time to build a shelter. This could be built inside of a shelter, and then if your shelter wasn't big enough to set up in, you could bring it out during the day and use it kind of like a chair. And it's easy to move around because all you're doing is moving your 2 big logs, your saplings, and whatever you're using to create some dead air space on the top that'll also help insulate you. Those are just some rough ideas on how to thermoregulate.